Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the newest episode of the penpodcast.com. I'm your host, Matthew Harms, founder of Pen for Hire, where we offer premier ghostwriting and author coaching services. Also, the creators of the Pen Podcast, where we sit with authors, writers, writing industry professionals, subject matter experts, and all around interesting people. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by Vicki Brett-Gach. How are you today, Vicki?
I'm great, man. How are you? It's nice to be with you.
It is my pleasure to have you here. Vicki is a vegan chef and author, and she is joining us from Ann Arbor, Michigan, correct?
That is correct. Yes.
Yes, I never remember that, but for some reason that always sticks with me. Probably helps that we've spoken once or twice before doing this.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's winter time here.
And you know what? I'm in New York, and I just went for my after lunch walk, and it's icing out. So we've been fortunate, but it's winter here as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'd love to know, vegan chef and author, which is more near and dear to your heart? Chef, cooking, or writing?
That's a fantastic question. And I truly love doing both. And it would be hard to separate them, I think, because I've been blogging and creating recipes and journaling and making notes about creating food for more than a decade. I've been blogging since I think 2012. So it would be hard to separate, but I'm also a chef and cooking instructor and a personal coach as well. So I work with people in every aspect of food from start to finish.
So I'm curious for my own personal knowledge. I always like to see if what I'm preaching is actually being practiced. How having a blog for, oh my goodness, a solid 10 years before coming out with your book, how, if at all, was that helpful in getting the book off the ground?
I think that has been very helpful because the process of creating and writing is a very solitary practice. But moving from writing to sharing it on a blog and very slowly building an audience kind of gives you a little bit of like drip, drip, drip toward developing content that's reaching people, and then kind of moving toward publishing is a really different kind of experience where you sort of take that whole experience of the summation of those years and move it to the next level where you're reaching a lot more people all at once, in theory at least. And so I think blogging prepared me for reaching a larger audience than I had been accustomed to before that after publishing.
And now, did you find that by having such an extensive archive of content that it was able to help you kind of get a jump start on the book and draw from it?
Yeah, definitely. I felt as though I had exactly that kind of like, some fertile material to work with to develop a concept. It's got me started on that process. And then COVID kind of was a catalyst to give me some more private time to kind of think about the message and who I wanted to reach and which things I wanted to include and not include and all that. But I think that process of daily, quiet, personal blogging and editing that is part of that process kind of gave me some experience that was helpful, that without that, I think would have felt more daunting.
Love it. And you mentioned COVID. So I want to touch on that just for a minute, because I know I got into helping people write books at the beginning of COVID. And it just seems, from my experience from a creative standpoint, there was so much to be thankful for at the beginning of COVID.
I absolutely think that. And I actually recognized during the beginning, that first year of COVID, that I would look back on this, if we were able to get through it, in a healthy way, and our family and our loved ones, even though there's been so much difficulty that's come out of this for so many people, that I would look back upon just having that quiet as a bit of a blessing. So many things shut down, including my daily work with clients. And so it was very much of a mixed blessing, but that opportunity to kind of go inward and think about a creative project that took a lot of time as well as energy and creative juices that normally are just I don't have that kind of energy at the end of a day or end of a week to begin to put that kind of project together in my normal life, at my normal pace. So that part of it was really a blessing to have that solitude.
That's one of those things I've been racking my brain to try to figure out a way to replicate for people, right? Because that was a forced kind of focus and quiet and solitude. But I like to believe there's got to be a way that people can figure out a way just to carve out a small portion of that personal time once, twice, 3 times a week to be able to accomplish the same.
I think that exact thing. And that's actually part of my New Year's resolutions, to think about sometime in every week, if not day, to do some self-care that involves all of the things that are important to us, including journaling, writing, creative work, all the things that kind of matter to each of us. And they may be different from person to person, of course, but I think that is a lesson that we can learn from that experience and carry with us if we're, if it's on the radar.
Yeah, I love that you used the word self-care. And I'm going to tie that back to, you mentioned also doing coaching. What kind of coaching are you doing?
I do. I'm actually a master vegan lifestyle coach. So I work with people across the country who are transitioning to a vegan diet and reaching some kind of plateau, or whether it's some education they need in order to move forward, or some constraints, some obstacles of some sort that prevent them from getting from where they are to where they want to be. And I help them figure out ways around that, whether that's, specifically building a menu plan into their week, including recipes from my cookbook or my blog, or figuring out what strategies work for their family. I work with people to help them figure out what's going to work for their situation. And because it's, as many people as there are, every situation's unique. So that's one of the most satisfying things that I do, because I can help people often, actually reverse health challenges that they're facing, diabetes, all kinds of things that sort of become one of the reasons somebody might choose to become vegan or plant-based. And so I can help them work towards those goals by figuring out with them what'll make that transition possible.
So I think we've spoken about this, but I want to ask it while we're live. Have you always been a vegan?
So actually, no, I have not. I actually became vegan, I'm going to say 14 years ago now. And for me, I originally became vegan as a result of just a family history with heart disease and diabetes and all kinds of other chronic illnesses. And just once I understood, I've always been kind of fascinated by nutrition, but once I was able to kind of get my hands on information that pointed me in a plant-based direction, it was so compelling that I just jumped on board and never looked back. I had my own stumbling blocks along the way, but once I was able to kind of get past them and figure out how to make it work in my kitchen with a family that's not vegan, I kind of felt like this is a really great message. This food is really delicious, and I couldn't wait to begin to share with other people. So one thing led to the other, and I started to write for a local newspaper, and then eventually became trained as a coach, and sharing recipes, and one thing kind of led to another. It was a very slow progression, one brick in front of the other, very much of a passion project before it was, kind of a full-time business.
I love it. And I mean, that's usually where I think, at least for me, I see the most success with clients and other people who are doing things they love, right? Because it's got to start with that passion. If you're just like, hey, I'm going to make a vegan cookbook because I think it's going to make me money, but I'm having steak and I don't believe in it. The two, like, your readers can tell that there's just, it's not a part of who you are.
Yeah. The idea of making lots of money was never part of the idea for me, but, being able to sort of strengthen my online presence and strengthen my ability to kind of have a little extra street cred when I do a presentation. It's just nice to kind of have that additional piece along with the other things that I am involved with.
So you used one of my favorite words or expressions, ways to express what we believe as books for street cred. How having a blog that's gone for 10 years, I mean, there's already a substantial amount of street cred, but have you noticed any significant difference now that you have the physical printed cookbook to go along with all of that?
I do. And the difference is that people are coming to me more than in the past to have opportunities to share recipes and presentations with them. So I've been invited by a number of new magazines to send recipes, and new groups to speak for them and things like that. So yes, I would say that it has opened some doors for some new opportunities that make it very nice to, I mean, doing a book signing. I mean, there's lots of fun things that have come out of this, but the real true purpose is truly that I wanted this book to be of service to people who are beginning to be plant-based and just don't know where to start. And these are the recipes I use in my own kitchen, and I knew they'd work for other people because it's the same stuff I teach, my students, and the stuff that I feed my family. So they're easy, and that's kind of my niche, I think, is trying to make healthy food easy.
Love it. Love it. Yes, I'm glad you clarified that. So this isn't something that you need to be a gourmet chef to go out, pick up, and be able to do. Like anyone who has some basic kitchen utensils and knows how to turn
Yeah,
on a stove can work with.
that's exactly right. Yeah, if you've got a couple of good knives and a cutting board and a skillet, you can get things started in your own kitchen. And as much as I love cooking, I also am a very busy person. I have a lot of events and training classes and things like that I'm involved with. So I work with clients most of the day. So I don't have as much time to cook at the end of the evening as I might like either. So in fact, I don't even have time to cook every day. So my book helps people just cook a couple of times a week, do some batch cooking so you can get some things in your refrigerator to choose from. And if you've got some healthy choices, you'll be able to make sure you stay on track.
Got it. Now I want to switch a little bit to the book creation process, because I know
Yeah.
we may have some listeners out there who aren't looking to write a traditional fiction novel or aren't looking to write a business personal development book. And the act of creating a cookbook or anything that's visually appealing is more than just words, right?
It's more than words. Yeah, there's images and there's the way things kind of flow. There's a kind of visual experience in addition to the actual information in there. Plus, I do have some information in the beginning before we get into the recipes that help people set up their kitchen, figure out what equipment they need, redo their pantry, how to eat more greens, lots of kind of how-tos in there along the way. But mostly the bulk of the book is deliciously simple recipes that they can make in their own kitchen. And I really wanted it to be kind of visually poetic, to just kind of be engaging enough to keep people looking from one page to the next.
So what was it like putting together? This is your first book, correct?
It's my first book. Oh, definitely.
So what was the experience like?
It was a lot of everything, a lot of every kind of emotion. It was very creative process. It was very intense. It was a lot of hard work. I won't say it wasn't. A lot of editing on top of editing on top of editing. When I thought we were done, there's still more editing to do. Um, but it was so thrilling to be able to take an idea and move it to the next level. And working with someone that you could kind of bounce ideas back and forth and collaborate and help bring out the best in me and that believed in me. I mean, it's really nice to have a partner. My publishing partner was able to sort of do that with me, to help take an idea, and to kind of take it to the next level. So it was exciting beyond description in the end.
And I would imagine that, I mean, for me with books, one of the hardest things to do is when someone's a subject matter expert is really make sure that they're being crystal clear in their message, because oftentimes they know it so well that they think they're explaining the entire concept or the entire step, but there's something missing because it lives in their head. So I would imagine with a cookbook, that's even double or triply as applicative, because if you leave out one little step, it could be the difference between the recipe coming out perfect or inedible.
It's absolutely true. And especially when you're this deeply involved with the material, it's easy to miss something. And so that's why it took so many iterations to make sure that everything read from start to finish as it needed to, in the right order, that, that every ingredient was listed, that we were consistent with how to do measurements with, capital letters, and, everything we had to kind of make decisions with, or on. And so that's part of why having a fresh eye of my editor, of my publisher, was so valuable for me to have somebody to kind of bounce ideas off of. It was a reality check to make sure things made sense, to make sure that, everything looked delicious, every photograph, and so, I think that's a really good reminder to make sure you're working with someone that you have compatible work styles.
Now, that's another point I wanted to hit on. So the visual component of the book, correct me if I'm wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, you did all of your own photography, right?
I did. So I've got about over 100 recipes, and all of the photographs are mine. Except for headshots, and there's a couple photographs in there my daughter took of me in the kitchen, but everything else I took. So it's a very, my background is actually in painting long before I got into cooking as a career. So that visual side of things is something that I actually really enjoy. And so I've been doing photography of my food for a long time now.
So you're a triple threat: writer, cook, and photographer.
Yeah, that's right.
I love it. Now, did you have archived photos, or as you put this book together for all 100 recipes, did you go and remake them and take fresh photos?
I did a combination. So depending on the format and what we were working with, sometimes I reshot in order to make it work in the book. Things had to be in a certain orientation and then format and so on. So I wanted to make sure that everything worked. So yeah, we did a little bit of both.
Wow, so people were eating good during this entire process.
That's right. Everybody gained a few extra pounds.
This gives me more reason to actually start working on one of those barbecue books that I keep putting off, although I don't really need the extra calories. So maybe I just talked myself right back out of it.
Maybe you did, yeah.
Vicki, what comes next now that you've got the book out, right? Your baby is out there in the world. Do you envision a second book, a more niche like dessert book, anything else in the writing front, or?
I will say that I will not rule it out, but I'm not quite to that point yet, honestly. I'm still a little bit on the honeymoon of this publication, which is just a few months old now. But I am as excited as I have ever been about creating content. And so, yeah, it's possible. There might be a sequel, but not at this point.
No, I love that answer, because almost everybody that I've ever spoken to who's written a book, they get that bug. But I love that you're enjoying that so-called honeymoon phase, because you work so hard for,
yeah.
I mean, you were working on that book for easily 2 years.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, no, take some time to enjoy it almost as long as you worked on it before moving on to the next thing.
I like that. For sure.
Is there anything that we didn't cover maybe about vegan eating and vegan lifestyle that you'd like for people to know before I move into letting them figure out how to contact you or work with you?
So I would say that for me, the process of becoming plant-based was a process. I learned about it and it made me want to learn more. And I started reading, many of the pioneers, the books by the pioneers in this field, whose books have become kind of, just major resources for people that are interested in vegan lifestyle and plant-based eating. And the more I learned, the more I wanted to read. So I think that for people, if it's a new topic to you, it can be kind of overwhelming. And I know for lots of my clients and people that contact me, they have an interest in the back of their mind. They think, eating a plant-based lifestyle is, plant-based diet is probably a good idea, but they're really not quite sure what that means, if they'd like it, where to start, if they could, find it sustainable. I mean, people have a lot of questions. And I think that I would reassure people that every one of those questions is part of the discovery. And sometimes having an accountability partner walk hand in hand with you. There's coaches like me, lots of them, all over the country, but people who are interested in working with someone to kind of help them sort out what their goals are, build a little bit of a plan, figure out what the obstacles are, be very honest with the process, with themselves about what the goals are and if they're all in or not, because so many people have ambivalence about starting any new goal. And I think that's an important, honest assessment, to take to see if they really are ready, or maybe they're just ready to dip their toe and not go all the way in and kind of play with it. And so that's what I would say, I try to do with my clients is meet them where they are, help them figure out where they want to go, not at all be pushy about what I like to do in my own kitchen, just help them figure out what they want to do. I've worked with clients who don't intend to be all the way plant-based. They just want more plants in their life. And so I'm here to help people do whatever works for them. So I would say that it's worth exploring. Learn why it's a good idea for our health, for our planet, for the animals, and then do what feels right for you.
It's funny you answered the question that was about to come out of my head, which is, are you okay with people who are looking to do more plant-based, but maybe still like, I'm still gonna have my steak on a Sunday type of mindset?
I am, because it's not my job to tell people what to do. Eating is a very, very personal, and very emotion-packed topic. So I definitely think that I kind of think that many people are on a path that will take them toward plant-based at some point, but it may not be yet. It may not be at all. I don't know. But I definitely, I don't feel it's my job to, have someone decide to do that or start to do that isn't ready for it at all. So no, I'm just here to help, kind of be the facilitator for their, individual goals.
And I think that's incredibly powerful, because I know I personally and many others in my world have had opposite experiences where it's kind of like, if you're not there's no in between. It's like, you have to do this, but if you ever touch a cheeseburger again, you're shunned from the vegan community. And I think it's really kind of demotivating to a lot of people who may want to move toward more of a plant-based lifestyle, but not restrict themselves to saying, I'm never going to have that cheeseburger again.
Absolutely. And that's the path I took when I became, vegan in 2009. I, intended to be fully vegan, but every few months I would want to have pizza that had cheese on it with my family, and then maybe I'd have ice cream or something like that. And I would do that every few months, maybe 3 times a year, something like that at first, for the first couple of years. And then, it was kind of a process for me. The more I learned, the more I started to kind of, understand why maybe for me that wasn't a good choice. And so my cholesterol dropped, I lost a few pounds, some things I had a lot of positive reinforcement. Plus, the more I read about climate and so forth, just kind of made it just a decision that was easier for me to not stray from. But I totally understand and have family members that are part of that journey that, they kind of stay vegan 100% of the time at home, but maybe when they go out, they're not, or, so I totally get that. And I think that, again, it's a very personal decision. And so I don't feel like that's my decision for someone else. I wouldn't want to lay that on them. I really want to just support wherever they are and whatever works for them.
Amazing. Yes, I think that really is more of the open-minded mindset, not just in diet, but in anything in the world. People get very locked into what their preference is or what their specialty is, and there is no room for negotiation or, leeway to doing it all that way, right? If you meet people where they're at, eventually, I like to believe most of us anyway, are going to make the best decision for ourselves.
Right. I think so. I think that people need information. But also, I don't want to force that information on them either. I know sometimes we only know when we've gone too far because maybe someone felt offended, and we can kind of learn from that. I think that for some people, their approach is just, being very much kind of in your face about what the right thing to do is. I have found that doesn't really work for people I talk to in my family and beyond with my client base. Instead, modeling what I believe in, waiting for questions, answering what someone wants to know, providing information, providing a variety of viewpoints so that people can kind of pick what fits best for them. And then just, I acknowledge there's a lot of things that are, controversial and we may not all agree on. And so, yeah, I'm here to just share what I know for those that have an interest in knowing how to do what I'm doing. But yeah.
If anyone out there listening is interested in finding out how to work with you to figure out what might be the way for them to transition into a plant-based diet, or just to find out more about your book, buying your book, talking about your book, what is the best way for people to get in touch with you?
Yeah, definitely to reach out to me through AnnArborVeganKitchen.com, which is my website and my blog, and has information about my coaching practice and my cooking classes. And contact me through there. Also, you can find my book there as well, available online through Amazon and through my website. So yeah, please, if you have any questions, any of your listeners have questions, please reach out. Always love the email and always love, helping answer questions.
Absolutely. For everyone listening, hopefully you caught Vicki's website. If not, it'll be in the show notes. You can also reach out to us at the Penn Podcast. Reach out to me directly, Matt at penforhirenyc.com. Happy to point you in the right direction. You just spent this time listening to the Penn Podcast with Matt Harms and Vicki Brett-Gach. Thank you so much. We always appreciate when you support our guests. So head over to her website and we'll catch you on the next episode. Vicki, thank you again so much for being here today.
Thank you so much, Matt. It's been a pleasure.
My pleasure.